and then have me like try to hurt, like I'll be like injured doing these procedures on you, because I'm gonna have a needle injecting some sensitive
Right, well there you go.
and
Okay,
so you do not want to have like my arm get hurt. So we'll forgive that, and it was really, you were just being nice.
Good.
Anyway, Ross!
How are you?
I'm so excited that you're here.
I know.
So, for those of you who don't know, because everyone does, but if they don't, Ross, who's my new friend, he is, first of all, you should read his book. It's called The Art, you probably have several books, I think, right?
Yeah, but The Art of Resilience.
Art
yeah.
of Resilience.
Aww.
Listen to it on Audible, because he does the whole thing himself, as himself. And the stories, I'm obsessed with the stories in your book.
Aww.
Here's one of the stories. I wish I had like the British accent, I could do it for you. But he has a story where it's like day, I don't know, 100 of swimming like around Great Britain. And he has to go like really fast for like 3 hours. And this big swarm of jellyfish comes at him and attacks his face.
An entire team of jellyfish.
And he's still swimming because he's a badass, but one of them like is stuck to his face. And it's stuck to his face, and it's like, you know, it's hurting pretty bad the whole time, but he can't stop swimming because there's some kind of like, there's whirlpools.
That was it?
There are these dangerous whirlpools. They're gonna suck you in if you stop swimming. So you have to keep swimming for 3 hours with these tentacles stuck to your face.
Yeah, wearing the jellyfish.
Wearing
Just
the jellyfish.
Oh.
But you were like, you talk a lot about stoicism in the book. So tell me about that. Tell me about how you got through those moments.
Yeah, do you know what? Like the thing was, Amy, like I think sports science will only get you so far. Like so on that swim, we were swimming 12 hours a day, every single day for 157 days. You know, through just Arctic storms, jellyfish, everything. And I think what was interesting with a sports science background, I just found that conventional sort of strength, prehab, rehab sports, psychology, it wasn't really applicable when you have a jellyfish on your face in an Arctic storm. It's just, you need
and
something.
And scabs around your neck
Exactly.
from the wetsuit. Yeah.
It's exactly it. So I just needed something else, and I think with stoicism, so an ancient philosophy, ancient Greek philosophy, it's just this idea of how to run your own brain, you know, how to objectively look after your emotions. And that, it really resonated with me. So, you know, I ended up sort of swimming around the coast of Great Britain, so 1,780 miles, almost practicing stoicism as I went, and then yeah, it's led me into a strange career that I have right now.
It's so good. The other thing I love that you talk about is, so you talked about how you went to the doctor beforehand to get checked out and to get, you know, like evaluated, like you had all your, because you were like very serious. Like you're a serious athlete. You're serious. Like you're all about.
I tried to be.
You know, all
I tried to be.
You know, science and things. So you go to this doctor, and maybe you should tell the story and not me.
Oh, it was brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was brutal. So yeah, I basically just said, look, how is my physiology? How is this body? I'm planning to swim around Great Britain. They turned to me and said, Ross, I've got your report and it doesn't look good. And I was like, well, how bad is it? And they went, well, first of all, you're short. You've got small arms. Short. Yeah, exactly. They were like, you've got muscle mass. You know, that's not very buoyant, so you're going to sink. And I was like, oh god, that's bad. And they went,
but
oh
it gets
no.
Worse.
Yeah, they go, we're not done. And he keeps on going. And then he said, you have dense bones. So I was like, okay. Again, he goes, so you're sinking. I said, but it's not even that. It's your skull. Like you have a big, dense skull. So essentially, if that's my head and there's me swimming, you're a submarine. Exactly. And then more, it continues. However, he goes, there is one thing. And
that's one good thing.
Fantastic. What is it? And he goes, there's one part of your physiology that might help you. I said, please, let me know. He said, you have childbearing hips. I said, I'm sorry. And he said, you carry a lot of fat around your hips, like some females do. So that will make you, it's almost like a duck's bum, like quite buoyant. And that was my diagnosis.
But what I love that you said though is you talked about how even though you didn't have like the perfect body for this, that you had been strength training for your entire life. Like you had essentially built up all these muscles and your body was used to training and to just being strong, and it's years and years of practice, and that just the importance of strength in that being able to be resilient, I think was really important, because a lot of people don't think about the strength training as being like a major, you know, especially in my field, it's like, you know, there's like cardio and do this and do that, but it's really the strength training that it ended up kind of getting you through a lot of that, right?
Yeah, and you're so right that I think as a training modality, there's been many studies that looked at mobility, flexibility, proprioception, kinesthetic awareness, people understanding how their body's moving. But one of the things was just strength, like as injury prevention, almost this idea of strength prehab, and it's so often overlooked. But I think now, you even have like Tour de France cyclists, and they're being told to strength train certainly early on in the season, just because it's making them more sort of resilient and robust. And with a more resilient and robust athlete or human, you can do more. Increase volume, intensity. You can just do more. And I think that's been really good. That I've been able to go back to the guy who diagnosed me with my big head and ducked bum, childbearing hips, and sort of say, well, look, I understand what you said, but actually, this body served me quite well.
Well, and in the longevity space, there's a lot of almost some conflict in terms of some people are like, oh, you shouldn't have very much protein because in the blue zones, the people who actually live the longest don't actually have very high protein diets. It's more like plant-based and whole grains. But then you have the people who are actually out there doing amazing things, and they're like, well, but you need the protein to build the muscle, and if you don't have the muscle, then you're going to have sarcopenia, and you're going to have you're going to lose strength, and you're going to lose bone mass and all this as you get older. So there's sort of this conflict in this longevity space about how much protein you have, but it's all based on how important is strength training.
You're 100% right there, and I think it's so interesting. I know Dr. Peter Thier, big fan of his, and he speaks about it so much. Just being with muscle mass, being very strongly correlated to strength, being such a predictor of longevity. But I think you're right, it's how that looks as well, because that's obviously strength and conditioning, but then you have over here the nutrition as well. So you're so right, and I think right now we're starting to build a blueprint of what that actually looks like. And that's what gets me excited. At 37 years old, I want to be doing this when I'm 100. So it's really interesting how I almost look at sports performance, but certainly more recently health as well. Because if you're not healthy, then sports performance is kind of irrelevant. So that's where I'm at. And you're so right. What we're learning now, I just think a 37-year-old athlete today isn't the same as 20 years ago. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron, Kipchoge, Berlin Marathon, I believe he just broke his own record again, 37.
That's amazing. So tell me, what are your favorite, I don't want to say hacks, but what are the favorite sort of things that you do aside from just your regular training that you think really work well? Is it supplements? Is it red light therapy or hyperbaric? What kinds of extra tools do you use that you like? Yeah,
I'm starting adding more to my arsenal. So again, as I'm getting older, I just feel that I can still do what I did when I was 21. It just takes a little bit longer, just that mobility workouts, stretching in the morning, hot and cold therapy, certainly ice baths for that inflammation. When I was younger, you could just spring out of bed and do exactly the same thing, whereas now it's just so looking at that. I also think fasting is another thing that I've introduced, which was quite hard for me as well, because when you're swimming 50 kilometers a day, when I'm in the middle of training camp, to fast is almost suicide. Your performance is just going to it's not good. So there's performance and there's health, but I think fasting is something that I've been able to incorporate, and I don't know if it's made me a better athlete, but it's made me a better human, and I think that's what's really interesting at the minute. I'm sort of trying to balance.
And are you doing like short fast, 18-hour fast, 16-hour fast, or are you doing multiple day fast?
It's exactly that's an 18-hour fast. I have done multiple days, and it was hard. And especially as well when I'm kind of looking at the training schedule, I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to swim for the goal. However, introducing those small fasts and also doing a lot of fasted cardio as well, sort of looking at bioenergetics, so just trying to encourage my body to be a little bit more fat adapted than just carb adapted. So that, I think, has been really interesting, that my fasted cardio sessions, trying to swim just 10 to 15 kilometers, zone 2, really aerobic, but it's also improving sort of nutrition and bioenergetics, but at the same time health.
Do you have any trackers that you wear? Do you have Whoops and Oura rings or sleep device? What do you how do you track your progress?
Do you know what's so interesting about that? I do, but sometimes it just doesn't quite make sense. So when I'm ice swimming, for instance, or if I go and do a long swim and there's just waves, currents, tides, then any wearable tech.
Ice swimming. This is something he does, just for fun.
This is it. Well, any wearable tech can't quite take that into consideration. So it will just go, oh, you've just done a 10-kilometer swim. And I was like, no, I was wearing jellyfish in an Arctic storm through whirlpools.
And I was peeing in my wetsuit. And no one caught me, you don't even know about that.
Exactly. So it's really interesting how I take a lot of wearable tech and go, I understand what you're telling me, but I have to ignore that right
I
now.
do the same thing. Like my Aura ring is like, will tell me like, you feel good today. Your score is 85, and I'm like, no, I don't. I feel horrible. I do not feel good today. And I get so angry at it because I'm like, you don't actually know how I feel.
Yeah.
All you know is like a couple of little things that, you know, like little points in time.
100%. And actually, what I love about that, a friend of mine, John Keeley, he was head of UK athletics during London 2012, so pioneered, certainly for Great Britain, that gold rush that we had. And he had an amazing saying, I love this. He said, too often we're trying to apply a simple mechanical solution to a complex biological reality. And what he meant by that is wearable tech, charts, workout plans, everything. That's the simple mechanical solution. And it's great because it gives you a platform, a base, a foundation. However, you have to be able to deviate from that because of the complex biological reality.
Right.
Just neurotransmitters, chemical signals in the brain, adrenal fatigue, etc. Does everything. All of those things, sometimes wearable tech.
And we're just starting to understand those things anyway. Like you can
Agreed.
check levels of hormones, for instance, but you don't even know like, well, what's happening at the receptor and inside the cell, and how strong are those things? Like we know one thing, and we think we know all the things, but we actually just know one thing.
Yeah, and you're so right. And so often I think with coaches and sometimes we humans, and I say this as myself as well, can be quite arrogant to go, oh, I know how that works. And it's like, no, you know, like this much.
Yeah. This much. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so tell me why you're here today hanging out with me.
It's been a bit of a journey. So we were speaking way back when I was back in England, and I think like I said, at 37 years old, I'm kind of at a point in my career where I kind of have to be kind to my body because of what I've already put it through from shoulder surgery.
Your body owes it. Your body is like, you're like, you owe me something.
It's
dude.
true. It's true. So yeah, shoulder surgery, cellulitis, hypothermia,
remind us of the cellulitis, where that came from again?
Yeah, that was a terrible idea. So, it was a good cause. It was a good cause. So we were raising awareness for ocean conservation, specifically the sea kelp and the forests around Scotland. Mm-hmm. And somebody said, look, could you do a swim to raise awareness for this? The only issue is Scotland is obviously quite cold, and it was going into the winter. So we put on a wetsuit, and I just tried to swim in Loch Ness for as long as possible. And we got...
With the monster.
Yeah, who didn't turn up.
Oh,
no, I know.
That's a shame.
No. So 53 hours in, no monster sightings, but I did get cellulitis, so it's a skin infection. Yeah, which gets into your lymph nodes and bloodstream, can be, fatal. It can be pretty bad. So there was that, mixed with a little bit of hypothermia, mixed with sort of like kidneys weren't entirely happy as well.
Rhabdo?
Oh, it's exactly it. Yeah, creatine kinase. It was just, they were like, oh, good God, that's horrendous.
Yeah. No monster.
And no monster. No, exactly. Yeah. So with all of that, with the shoulder surgery from the GP, so there's just been a lot. So it's being kind to my body now, but also it would be so good. We've still got some amazing charity swims that I want to do, and if this could help in any sort of way, that would be amazing. So that's how it sort of came around, speaking to yourself and Dr. Adelson, and then just with everything that you do, it's just amazing. With what we were talking about this earlier, with what you put out on social media, just being so honest and objective, and I love that that's what you do. So when you were just we were talking and you said, Ross, I can do X, Y, and Z. That sounds amazing. If I'm asleep and I come out to Utah, then just go to town, do whatever you want to do. So that's essentially why we're here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're super happy to have you. We're going to do your stem cell procedure tomorrow, and then and hopefully today you can show us how you do the cold water.
That's the plan. I mean, I know you're up for it. Dr. Adelson less so.
Yeah.
I think he's going to need
I think he'll cheer you on though if he doesn't go in. We're talking about doing a cold plunge today. Cold plunge / cold swim. This guy is going to swim. I'll probably just plunge. But Harry he's not super excited, so we'll have to see how it goes. But either way, it's going to be super fun. And I love talking to you. And by the way, guys, read the book. Read the book. So good. Right? You got to read it. So good. All right.
Thanks.
Should we try?